My name is Celine Hart, and I am 38 years old. I'm the type who labels her cables, saves every receipt in a zip pouches by quarter, and sets 3 silent alarms for tax deadlines: one a week early, one 3 days early, one on the day itself. I run a small IT consulting firm that keeps mom and pop hardware stores and mid-sized dental practices from losing their minds to bad backups and worse passwords. It's not glamorous. It pays the taxes on time. Adrian Cole, 35, handsome even in debt, used to say I made stability look sexy. He meant it like a compliment. I took it as a warning. The text came on a humid Tuesday, the kind where the air in the office tastes like warmed plastic. I had just finished a remote patch cycle when my phone buzzed with the kind of bravado you can hear even in writing. Baby, I did something huge. I withdrew $50,000 from our account for my boutique consulting launch. This is IT, the big one. You'll thank me later. For a long second, I thought it was a joke. Then my banking app confirmed the number and the account. The quarterly tax fund, the one I'd set up purely as a holding pen for Uncle Sam. The only reason Adrian's name was on it at all was last year's conversation about building business credit together. I called it symbolic access. He treated it like a key. The first reaction was hot. Call the bank, freeze the accounts, scorch the earth. But when I opened the calendar, something cooler moved in behind my eyes. April estimates weren't due until September. 6 months. 6 months is a long time to teach someone what a boundary means, if you can stomach the lesson. I typed, "I believe in you." He called within seconds, voice wet with triumph. "Celine, I swear you won't regret this. This is the power couple arc. Forbes features, panels, the whole nine." "Walk me through the plan," I said, and I was proud of how normal my voice sounded. Adrian was always a curator of plans. He collected them like pretty seashells. MLM, dropshipping, crypto coaching. He had dabbled in them all, usually for the aesthetic. His boutique consulting was the newest shell. The deck he slid across our dining table that night was gorgeous and hollow. A minimalist logo, creamy fonts, aspirational phrases built on air. He wanted a sunlit office in the trendiest block downtown, $3,000 a month. He wanted designer furniture, Italian leather with the scent of unauthorized confidence. He wanted branding and launch parties, and an inventory of curated lifestyle goods he would recommend and occasionally resell. The budget ate itself, 15,000 here, 10,000 there, like a snake nibbling its own tail. I smiled the smile I save for flaky vendors and said, "Let's make it official." Then I helped him file the LLC in his name only. "It will be cleaner for taxes," I said. He beamed. He loved the word CEO, the way toddlers love the word mine. There are moments you don't realize are foreshadowing until much later. The first came when Adrian practiced signing his name, Adrian Cole, CEO, over and over at the kitchen counter like a boy tracing letters. The second came when he FaceTimed me from a showroom to ask whether the cream sofa or the oat milk sofa felt more founder. The third came when he used the word runway to describe 30 days. I didn't hide anything from myself. This account was my tax lifeline. He had taken it without asking. I also didn't hide anything from him. Every step we took, I took with him, and every step I wrote down. Emails, texts, timestamps. A breadcrumb trail for the version of Adrian who would someday swear he had been led into the forest. He moved fast. Within a week, the lease papers gleamed under a pen he couldn't afford. The office had a green wall and an espresso machine that sounded like a jet taking off. He filmed a launch video where he stood in the light and called himself a solutions architect for women with legacy taste. He wasn't joking. He began taking meetings with clients who needed a mentor like a cat needs a life coach. He came home at midnight with glossy bags and said they were samples. He loved calling things samples. Month 1 numbers were an artful tragedy. 3 clients, 2 paid, 1 promise, revenue $12,200, expenses a bonfire. He told me the market needed time to recognize the value proposition. I told him I believed in momentum and in the Internal Revenue Service. He laughed and kissed my knuckles like we were in a noir movie. There is a difference between love that makes room and love that erases doors. I used to save him from late fees like a reflex. This time, I practiced a new religion, natural consequences. I nodded at his pitches. I declined his quiet, hopeful, "Could you front me just 5 more?" I cooked dinner and let silence carry the weight his spreadsheets refused to bear. I answered when he asked how my day had gone and did not answer when he asked, "Do you think I'm failing?" Because I knew he didn't want the truth yet. He wanted a sedative. By month 2, the oat milk sofa had a dent in the shape of his doubt. He rebranded to Wellness Consulting for Elite Women, because apparently what the market needed was the same emptiness but with sage. He ordered new business cards. He kept the espresso machine. I watched and I documented. I am not built for games, but I understand systems. The IRS is not a villain. It is a metronome. The money he took had a date stamped on its forehead. When we set up his LLC, we made a record. When he moved the funds, he made a trail. When he texted me, "Pulled 50K for us," he made an admission. The difference between a trap and a boundary is intent. I hadn't lured him. I had stepped out of the way. There were good days. He would come home high on a meeting that wasn't a meeting so much as a brunch with a woman who liked his jacket. He'd talk about forming a mastermind. He'd say he could see our names on a panel, building a brand with intention. I would picture my zip pouches and think, intention is paying what you owe. There were bad days. He would stare at his laptop like it owed him affection. He would ask me whether I thought success was about timing or connections. He would open Instagram and hand me his phone so I could heart the comments from women calling him visionary. I would wash the dishes and listen to the hollow sound of plates knocking in the rack. On a Thursday near the end of month 3, he mentioned casually that he'd sold the office rug and a pair of samples to cover the electric bill. Short-term pivot, he said. Lean startup, he said. He said many words. The only one that mattered was September. The first red leaf appeared on the sycamore outside our window in late August. I looked at it the way you look at the second-hand crossing 12. A small ceremony, a quiet yes. In the last week before September, Adrian rehearsed a new ask. It was in his eyes, pacing behind his pupils. I headed it off with a measured kindness I had learned the hard way. "I can't invest further," I told him, "but I believe in your ability to figure it out." He hugged me longer than usual, as if length could equal sincerity, and said, "You're my angel." I thought, angels hold flaming swords at the gate. The day the letter arrived, it did not arrive for me. That's the thing about trails. You never know who will follow them. I carried the mail inside, placed the heavy envelope on the kitchen island, and called his name. He was in the bathroom with a clay mask on, eyes shining above the gray like a warrior in training. "What now?" he said, breezy as a yacht. "The IRS," I said. "We need to talk about that account." He blinked. The clay cracked. A small triangle of dried mask fell to the sink like ash. "Your what?" "My tax account," I said evenly. "The 50 you withdrew was due to the IRS in September. They don't take exposure as payment." For the first time in months, I watched a genuine emotion move through his face. Not ego, not theater, fear. Then he set it down like a glass he didn't want to spill. "You have other money," he said softly, coaxing. "We're a team." "We aren't married," I said, "and teamwork doesn't include taking what isn't yours." He took a breath, read the bolded words on the letter as if they were in another language. Failure to pay estimated quarterly taxes, and I felt a calmness I hadn't known I was capable of. September had kept its appointment. So it seemed had we. Outside, the sycamore let go of a second leaf. "Adrian," I said, and my voice was kind because there was no point in cruelty now. "This is going to be hard, and it is also going to be fair." He stared at the envelope as if maybe the font would change if he looked long enough. Somewhere in the hall, my phone buzzed. A reminder I didn't need. SEPTEST. IRS. But still kept. Not because I might forget, because sometimes the thing that keeps you steady is the sound of your own promise ringing on time. The next few weeks were a study in silence broken by small detonations. Adrian stopped waking up early. The office, once his playground, turned into a graveyard of echoing promises. His clients dwindled to one loyal friend who paid him in gift cards. The rest vanished when invoices met reality. I stayed out of the way, watched him try to pivot, first to luxury wellness retreats, then to personal mindset coaching. Every week a new pitch deck, every week a new phrase. This time it's scalable, but the numbers never changed. The $50,000 had turned to fumes. By mid-September, the IRS letter arrived, this time addressed to him, not me. A carbon copy of the one I'd received earlier, bold, sterile, and merciless. The kind of letter that doesn't care who loved who, only who owes who. Adrian came into the living room, waving it like a snake. Celine, what is this? They're saying I owe 20 grand. How? You withdrew money from an account in your name, I said quietly. You started a business in your name. You spent the funds. The IRS thinks it's your income. That's insane, he barked, pacing. You said you believed in me. You told me to do it. I told you to build wisely, I said, not to steal my tax money. His voice cracked on the word steal. He stared at me like I'd called him something obscene. You could have stopped me, he whispered. I shouldn't have had to. He stormed out that night, slamming the door so hard it made a photo of us rattle off the wall. The next morning, his sister Denise called. Celine, what did you do? She demanded before I could even say hello. Adrian says you set him up, that you let him take the money knowing this would happen. I took a slow sip of coffee. He took it without asking, Denise. I didn't let anything. I watched. So you're just going to throw him to the IRS? He took that money for both of you. For both of us? Denise, I run a business. I file quarterly taxes. The IRS doesn't do both. They do numbers. His name, his withdrawal. You sound cold, she snapped. You ruined his future. No, I said. He just spent it early. She hung up on me. Within hours, my phone lit up. Adrian's mom, then his dad, then a string of messages from his friends. The narrative was clear. I was a calculating woman who weaponized taxes against her boyfriend. The posts on his social media didn't help. When love turns into betrayal, some women will destroy you with a smile. I didn't comment. I didn't explain. I went to the locksmith instead. The next night, the camera feed from my porch lit up my phone. Adrian, hood up, jiggling the handle. Just need some documents, he muttered into the dark, unaware of the red light blinking above him. The police came 10 minutes later. I didn't press charges yet. I just wanted distance. 2 days later, an email came from Agent Harrison, IRS investigator. Ms. Hart, it began, Mr. Cole has alleged that you instructed him to move funds from your joint account for tax purposes. Could you clarify? I smiled to myself and replied, I'd be happy to. I sent him everything, screenshots, texts, bank statements, even the 3 a.m. voicemail, where Adrian accused me of abandoning his vision. The next morning, Harrison called. His voice had the weariness of a man who's heard every version of "It's not my fault." Ms. Hart, I've reviewed your evidence. Seems Mr. Cole's claim doesn't hold water. I figured as much, I said. He sighed. He'll receive notice of penalties and potential garnishment. I just wanted to confirm your end of the story. It's all documented, I replied. He chuckled. That's obvious. When I hung up, I stared at my reflection in the dark computer screen. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt tired, like the adrenaline had burned off and all that was left was paperwork and echoes. Adrian texted me that night from an unknown number. You win. Are you happy now? I didn't reply. A week later, Denise called again, her tone softer, pleading. He's falling apart, Celine. The IRS froze his account. He can't pay rent. Can't you help him? You make good money. I closed my eyes. I helped him for 3 years. Maybe it's time the world helped him grow up. She was quiet, then said bitterly, You'll regret this. I already did, I said, and hung up. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. But peace has a short shelf life when guilt comes knocking. The following afternoon, my mother called after seeing one of Adrian's cryptic posts. Sweetheart, are you okay? He's saying you ruined him. I'm fine, I said, though my hands trembled. And he's not ruined. He's just accountable. I didn't tell her about the part that kept me up, the part that asked whether this was punishment or protection, whether watching someone fall was justice or just another kind of cruelty. Then a letter arrived, not for me, for him, forwarded to my address because the IRS still had it listed as shared. I held it in my hands, the envelope heavier than paper should be. It said, intent to garnish. The deadline, 30 days. And that's when Adrian showed up in person. He didn't knock. He waited by his car until I stepped outside. Celine, he said softly, I need your help, please. He looked thinner. The charm was gone, replaced by desperation so raw it almost made me forget the chaos. Almost. I can't fix this for you, I said. You need a lawyer. I hired one, he said, voice shaking. He says if you co-sign a statement clarifying intent, maybe they'll reduce the penalties. I'm not lying for you. I'm not asking you to lie, he said quickly. Just say it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't. He exhaled, eyes wet. Do you really want me destroyed? I want you responsible. He laughed bitterly. You always were the judge and the jury. And you always thought rules were optional. He stared at me for a long time, then turned toward his car. You'll regret this, he said again. Maybe, but regret is cheaper than debt. That night, I pulled the curtain aside to watch him drive off. The taillights flickered once, then disappeared into the dark. Somewhere out there, the IRS clock kept ticking. And for the first time in years, I didn't chase after him to stop it. By October, the air carried that sharpness that makes truth feel colder. The IRS had moved past warnings. They sent Adrian the kind of letters that arrived in thick envelopes with embossed seals and words like immediate action required. He tried to call me again. New number, new plea. Celine, they're threatening to garnish my wages. You can't just let them do this. Adrian, I said, voice steady. They're not my wages. He didn't reply. Just a long silence, broken by a whisper. You don't even care if I drown, do you? I care, I said. But caring doesn't mean carrying. He hung up. Days later, I got a call from Agent Harrison again. His tone was half amused, half resigned. Ms. Hart, your ex attempted to claim you coerced him into transferring the funds as part of a joint tax evasion scheme. I let out a quiet laugh. Creative. Indeed. We've reviewed all prior documentation. The case is clear-cut. He'll receive updated penalties for false reporting. When I thanked him, Harrison paused. Off the record, Ms. Hart, I see cases like this all the time, but rarely does someone document things as precisely as you did. I've learned to keep receipts, I said. He chuckled softly. The IRS appreciates your diligence. By the time we hung up, I realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore, just done. Adrian, however, wasn't done with me. 2 weeks later, during a client meeting at my office, my receptionist's face went pale. Ms. Hart, there's a group insisting they need to see you. It was Adrian, and he hadn't come alone. His parents flanked him like a courtroom defense. His mother's lips were tight. His father's jaw trembled with indignation. Celine, Adrian barked, pushing open the conference room door mid-meeting. We're not leaving until you fix this. My client, a 60-something hardware store owner named Mr. Lang, blinked at the intrusion. Excuse me, I said calmly. This is a professional setting. Adrian's father stepped forward, red-faced. You ruined our son's life. You'll make this right, or I swear. Mr. Lang stood, all 5'7" of quiet authority. Sir, if you make another threat, I will call the police. Adrian froze. His mother's voice cracked. She set him up, don't you see? She tricked him. Mr. Lang looked between us, confusion giving way to disgust. So, he took her money without asking, spent it, and now blames her for the bill? The silence that followed was heavy as concrete. Adrian's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Security arrived, escorted them out. Adrian's father shouted something about karma. I didn't bother responding. I filed a restraining order that same afternoon. The next day, Denise texted me again. You could have handled this privately. I typed back, he made it public. Then I blocked her. But peace is never simple. 2 nights later, Adrian's mother called sobbing. He's talking crazy things, Celine, saying he's going to end it. Please, you have to help him. My throat went dry. I'd heard this tone before. Every time he wanted a bailout, the script changed, but the manipulation didn't. Call 911, I said quietly. Get him help. I can't be that for him anymore. There was silence, then a trembling, You're really that cold? I'm not cold, I said. I'm just not responsible for saving him from his own choices. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the IRS notice, still sitting in my inbox. Garnishment scheduled for November 15th. He wasn't bluffing about the desperation. His wages were already being siphoned, 25% at a time. He'd gone from designer offices to living in his childhood bedroom again. His once daily CEO updates on social media had turned into vague, bitter quotes about betrayal and resilience. One night, unable to sleep, I checked his page out of morbid curiosity. His latest post read, Sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who teach you what pain really means. Dozens of sympathetic comments poured in. Stay strong, King. She doesn't deserve you. He liked every one of them. The next morning, my mother called again. Sweetheart, I know you're right, she said softly. But right doesn't always feel good, does it? No, I said. It doesn't. Weeks passed. Adrian's attorney, a real one this time, emailed me requesting mediation. I declined. The letter he sent was polite but hollow. My client wishes to resolve this amicably. Would you be open to assisting with partial payment toward his penalties? Translation. He's drowning. Throw him a life jacket. I didn't respond. The IRS doesn't pause for pity. By early November, Adrian's wages were officially garnished. His once proud business accounts were frozen. His boutique's Instagram disappeared, replaced by a generic deactivation message. Then came the final call from Agent Harrison. Ms. Hart, I wanted to update you that Mr. Cole has agreed to a repayment plan. $400 a month for the next 8 years. 8 years, I repeated. That's correct. And his LLC will remain under audit flag for future filings. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Before hanging up, Harrison added, Off the record, Ms. Hart, you handled this cleaner than most divorces I've seen. We were never married, I said. Lucky you. When the call ended, I realized I was smiling, not from joy, but relief. It was finally over. Or so I thought. A week later, Adrian sent me one last message, on LinkedIn of all places. I know you'll probably never read this, but I wanted you to know you destroyed me. I was trying to build something for us. Now I'll be paying for your taxes until I'm 43. Hope you're happy. I read it twice. Then I took a screenshot, not out of spite, but as evidence that closure rarely looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like someone still refusing to learn. When I closed the app, I looked out my window. The sycamore that had started this whole timeline was bare now, branches sharp against the cold sky. I whispered, mostly to myself, boundaries are not cruelty, they're survival. The wind didn't argue. It's been a year since Adrian's grand entrepreneurial awakening. 1 year since that text that began with fireworks and ended with fines. Sometimes it feels like another lifetime. Other times, like a scar that still itches when the weather changes. Adrian still owes the IRS. Still living with his parents. Still posting recycled motivational quotes with the same captions he once mocked. Rise from the ashes. Your haters are just confused fans. The irony writes itself. Every now and then, mutual friends send me screenshots. Not because I ask, but because gossip has its own gravity. The latest update. Adrian tried to start a virtual assistant business, promising executive-level support for creative leaders. It lasted 2 weeks. The clients wanted results. He wanted admiration. He's working retail now, I heard, folding shirts under fluorescent lights that hum like judgment. His Instagram bio still says CEO, visionary, dream chaser. Some people never wake up. They just hit snooze on accountability. As for his family, their calls stopped months ago. I guess it's hard to keep defending a story that keeps collapsing under its own fiction. Denise unfriended me on everything. His mother sent one last text around Christmas. He still cries about you sometimes. I hope you're proud. I didn't answer. Pride had nothing to do with it. There are days I still wonder, not whether I was right, but whether I could have softened the landing. Then I remember all the late nights spent fixing his urgent mistakes, the countless times I paid for his dreams with my calm, my credit, my silence. Compassion without boundaries isn't love, it's servitude. When people say, you ruined him, I quietly think, no, I just stopped cushioning the fall. My own life moved on in quiet increments. I met someone, Nathan Rivers, a man who files his taxes early, who keeps receipts, who actually reads contracts before signing them. He owns a small design agency. One evening over dinner, I told him the entire story, every detail from that first text to the final IRS call. He didn't interrupt. He just listened, then laughed so hard he cried. When he caught his breath, he said, "Remind me never to cross you." I smiled. "You won't need reminding if you respect me." He reached across the table, took my hand, and said, "Just so we're clear, my business accounts are my own, and my taxes are paid quarterly." I laughed for the first time in what felt like forever. There's something healing about transparency, something holy even, about not having to hide your balance sheets, emotional or financial. Sometimes, on slow afternoons, I open the old folder on my computer labeled Adrian Files. Old habits. It holds every screenshot, every email, every shred of the chaos that once felt like my whole world. I don't open it out of spite. I open it to remind myself what self-respect looks like in writing. There's a clip in there, security footage from that night he tried to break in with a butter knife. The determination, the disbelief when the new deadbolt wouldn't budge. It's tragicomic gold. I watch it once in a while, not to gloat, but because it's proof of something simple. I survived loving someone who would have rather blamed me than better himself. When you've been the one who fixes everything, letting someone fall feels unnatural, cruel even. But eventually you realize not every fall is your fault, and not every rescue is your duty. A few weeks ago, a new message popped up on my phone, an unfamiliar number, but the tone was familiar. Hey, can we talk? I've changed. I didn't respond, because maybe he had changed. Maybe not. But either way, it wasn't my responsibility to find out. That night, I made tea, opened in my balcony door, and looked up at the same sky that had watched it all unfold. Quiet, infinite, mercifully indifferent. People often ask me now, friends, colleagues, even viewers of my little storytelling videos, if I'd do it all again. The answer is yes, not because it was easy, but because it taught me what love isn't. It isn't saving someone who doesn't want to grow. It isn't pretending theft is vision. It isn't shielding someone from the storm they keep summoning. Love is boundaries, respect, mutual truth. And sometimes love is walking away before the IRS has to teach the lesson for you. The $50,000 paid in full months ago. My taxes cleared. My conscience too. I don't wish Adrian harm. I don't wish him luck either. I just wish him less denial. The moral? When someone shows you who they are, believe them. When they steal from you, don't chase the apology. Let them keep the lesson. Just make sure what they're stealing is their own future, not yours. And always, always keep your tax money in a separate account.